Hello and welcome to Gaming News Weekly, every Friday at 5 with your host Rich, that's myself, and my good friend Tabs.
Hi everybody, hi BArcadians and any newcomers.
We've got some juicy topics to get into shortly, but before we do that, we'll start as we do every week with a dive into what we've been playing this week. So Tabs, kick us off. What have you been playing this week?
Yeah, no problem, mate. I mean, before I dive in, we should just say for continuity, just in case there's any Barcadians out there a little bit puzzled, we've given the show the Ron Seal treatment, haven't we, my friend?
We have, indeed.
Just to kind of simplify it and hopefully make it a bit easier to discover. The BA News show is perhaps a little bit obscure, we've arrived at the conclusion of. So hence the reason we're mixing it up a bit. But anyway, what have I been playing this week? I suppose it's Demon Souls again, isn't it, mate? I mean, have we played it this week, though? Feel maybe briefly at the start.
Sunday? We played it Sunday, I think, didn't we?
Yeah. So I suppose in a way we have, in a way we haven't, depending on when the week starts. Apart from that, have I played any of the games? I don't think I have, my friend. I've just ordered Mario 3D Land or World, is it? I forget now. So I've ordered that. That will be coming tomorrow, hopefully. So that's going to be my next thing to tuck into.
Awesome.
But apart from that, no, I've not really played anything. So terrible. What about you, mate? Have you got anything to save the channel with?
That's strange. I would say 9 times out of 10, if someone's not played any games in a week, it would be me. So I'm surprised by that. You've also been a busy boy. This week, bit of Demon Souls. We've sort of finished. We're partway through our second playthrough. We've both got the ultimate weapon now. We're sort of. It's one of those. We could continue playing, but it's
on the slide, isn't it?
Time now.
It's on the slide,
yeah, basically. So I've actually dived back into Spider-Man. Ticked that on quite a bit. A few evenings this week. I think I'm over 50% play completion on that now. So yeah, it's cool. Interesting, completely different like style of play compared to Demon Souls. So it was a little bit of an adjustment getting back to it, but soon adjusted and soon cracked on with it. But yeah, there we go. That's this week's gaming for me and Tabs.
Fantastic.
So let's get into our news items this week. So firstly, we're going to start with Digi E3. And this little piece of information comes from Games Radar. The Entertainment Software Association, ESA, has confirmed that it's planning a digital E3 2021 this June, reports VGC. In a statement to Games Radar, the ESA laid out plans for this year's E3, writing, "We can confirm that we are transforming the E3 experience for 2021 and will soon share exact details on how we'll be bringing this global video game community together. We're having great conversations with publishers, developers, companies across the board, and we look forward to sharing details about their involvement soon." Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, E3 2020 was cancelled back in March of last year, as we all know. The event was set to run from June the 9th to June the 11th in Los Angeles, but was cancelled in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and protect the health and safety of our attendees, E3 employees, the developers obviously. Back then, the ESA promised to bring a reimagined event that brings fans, media and industry together for E3 2021. It was clear that the community wasn't sure how long our lives would be affected by COVID-19 back then. Nearly a year later, however, it's clear that an in-person E3 2020 is off the table. Shocker. The digital E3 2021 is set to take place during the previously announced dates of June 15th to June 17th and will reportedly include 3 days of live streaming coverage, a handful of 2-hour keynote sessions from games partners, a preview night on June the 14th, an award show and smaller streams from publishers and industry influencers. ESA's proposal seeks to supplement the event with media previews taking place the entire week before and demos released on multiple platforms. Media members will also get a chance to preview games demos via streaming, which is how we've been seeing all the new games during this pandemic. So it's quite clear that E3 has changed again this year. I mean, to be honest, I think there's a possibility this is how this could have gone anyway, whether the pandemic had pushed this far into this year or not, given that, we've spoke at length on this channel previously last year that, E3 was sort of on the decline. What do you make about this, Tabs?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, isn't it, mate, that there's no physical event, of course. We've talked about trying to get to LA ourselves and experience our first ever E3 before it fades away entirely, which this could be the start of. I think it remains to be seen, doesn't it? There's still a lot of question marks here over how many people are actually involved, because it's dependent upon, much like consoles are dependent upon the quality of their games, E3 is dependent upon the quality of the content and the quality of the people who are actually going to be a part of the show. So we don't know how big the developers are signing up for it, if the big three are involved, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, and that will really feed into whether this is going to be a success or not. For me personally, I think I would like to see a collective subscription across the games industry to this digital event. I know it's very easy to march to the beat of your own drum these days, do it in your own time, set it up when you want to without that pressure, the stress of the deadline, which makes sense in a COVID climate. But from a gamer's perspective, you can't beat that kind of, melting pot of hot new gossip news about upcoming video games all coming, down the pipe at once. I know it's a nightmare for games journalists, but you can't beat that sort of excitement and anticipation that climaxes in this kind of collective event. So that's my position.
For me, you've absolutely hit the nail on the head. Every year we look forward to E3 as gamers, of people interested in the industry. We look forward to what they're going to do. Are they going to debut a console? Are they going to show us some new hardware? What are they going to be doing? It's a chance to see lots of new things in it. It just spurs excitement for the rest of the year because of games that you expect to see between then and the Christmas period. So it's something that we look forward to every year, and it's why we've always thought about trying to get there one day, which potentially may never happen now. But yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit strange, especially if I don't understand what the incentive is to the likes of Microsoft or Sony or Nintendo or Ubisoft or any of these other people. What is the incentive to be involved in this when you could just do your own thing and drop it on your own platform, whether that's YouTube or your socials or whatever?
I think the idea is that because it's this kind of you've got this collective line of sight from the whole gaming audience across the globe looking in, you're perhaps going to get some bigger numbers in terms of engagement, in terms of just people generally watching that footage. But like you point out, with the likes of YouTube and given COVID-19, I don't think companies are really having to fight so hard for attention these days, are they? Because people are all twiddling their thumbs and desperate for anything new. I mean, there's an argument to say, isn't there, that unlocking the format and therefore then cascading all of the news throughout the year at a gentler pace, over time, well, it kind of fills your year in a different way, doesn't it? As opposed to just getting it all in a big shotgun blast at once. Mm. But, personally for me, I've always loved E3 and that whole, just that feeling of excitement and meaning that it brings. So that would be my wish, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure it will unfold over time, and we'll bring you the news, BArcadians, as and when we get it. But shall I move us on, Rich?
Go for it, Tabs.
So, second topic for today is titled Last of Us, Game of Thrones. So this news comes courtesy of The Guardian. Game of Thrones actors Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal, who also stars in Disney's Star Wars spin-off The Mandalorian, of course, have been cast in HBO's television adaptation of blockbusting video game series The Last of Us. They will take on the roles of Ellie and Joel in the forthcoming drama. The Hollywood Reporter broke news of the adaptation last March, and since then, speculation over the casting has been rife. Fans on social media initially favoured Booksmart star Caitlin Dever for the role of Ellie, and the actor expressed interest. Meanwhile, True Detective's, probably going to pronounce this incorrectly, Mahershala Ali was rumoured to have been approached for the role of Joel. Reacting to the announcements on Twitter, Neil Druckmann, writer and creative director of the games, said, "We're thrilled to have Bella join the Last of Us family." He later wrote, "And there's the other half, stoked to have Pedro aboard our show." So it's going to be written by Craig Mazin, creator of the acclaimed Chernobyl miniseries, so that stands us in good stead, and scripted by Druckmann. Wow. So the HBO tie-in is set to follow the events of the original Last of Us game. So, of course, this sent Twitter into a spiral of different reactions, as ever it does. Some really chuffed to see, Pedro Pascal. I think most Star Wars fans and anybody who's watched the show tends to support his casting and what he's brought to The Mandalorian. And it's great. I think he'll do this, this justice as well as Joel. Of course, he doesn't look that much like Joel, maybe you could argue. And I think
absolutely nothing like him.
No. And I think that's a lot of what people who would disagree with this casting are saying about, both of these actors, that they just don't really look like their counterparts in the game. But it's not about that, is it? Give them some creative license, give them some room to breathe. It's all about, living up to the spirit of the franchise, I think, more than anything. And it says it's going to follow the Last of Us game closely, which I'd like to see that. But as we know with things like Game of Thrones, for example, they sometimes go their own way. So it's not impossible. They might spin things off as they start to unwind the story. And again, I think it's important that creators have some license to do that. They're not too hemmed in when it comes to producing things like this. But Rich, throwing back to you, my friend, what do you make of it all? Are you pleased?
So I think the casting of the chap from The Mandalorian is a great casting. I think he's a good actor. I really like that. The person they've cast for Elle, I'd say I've seen her in a couple of things, not just Game of Thrones. I think I said to you, Tabs, I'm sure she's in His Dark Materials. And I would say I do not rate her as highly as an actress. She's very young, however, I think. So, there is time for her to blossom in that respect. But it's interesting. Now, I look at this and think, why should the characters look exactly like their counterparts from the game? Because if that's what everybody wanted, why aren't they just making a CGI like series and they'll just make it with the characters? We want to see a standalone product that, somehow enriches the Last of Us world for us, that, creates something different for us, a different memory. Otherwise, just play the game. It's, if it was going to be exactly like that, I don't know why you would want it to be exactly like that.
Exactly. It's a new form of media, and it deserves these new creative freedoms to, as you say, create its own identity, its own place in the franchise, in the world, in the fan base. And also, let's be honest, Neil Druckmann's involved. I think we can say it's in safe hands because he's going to be the backbone of ensuring it's authentic. I really hope as well they bring in the actors who actually voiced Joel and Ellie in the games to kind of consult with these, with the new actors. That would be nice. Just to try and dig down to, what the characters mean to them and kind of transpose that onto their canvas, if you like. So, yeah, I'm excited. I don't think there's any reason to be concerned at this point in time. But, Twitter's Twitter.
I think also with Craig Mazin involved, Chernobyl was incredible. So if he can do something on that level with The Last of Us, it's going to be amazing. So,
it was amazing, wasn't it, mate? Amazing.
Yep.
You didn't get the joke.
What do you
Mazin,
mean?
Craig Mazin. No. Craig Mazin.
Oh, I like it. Nice. I thought you were because obviously it's a pretty rough subject. I thought you were making a joke about I'm saying it's amazing.
Oh, whoa. And don't throw me under that bus, my friend.
I was like, all right. But yeah, so obviously it's fairly dark, Chernobyl, but as a piece of entertainment and as a series, it is fantastic. So if you haven't watched it, I urge you to go and watch it. Especially it gives Craig Mazin some real kudos in what he did with that. Anyway, shall we move on?
Shut us on, my friend.
So CD Projekt Red hacked. Oh dear. And this comes from The Verge. CD Projekt says it has been hacked by attackers who have been able to access its internal network, encrypt some devices and collect certain data from the Polish video game company. The Cyberpunk 2077 developer says it will not give in to the demands or negotiate with the attacker and does not believe any personal data of players or service users has been compromised. In a tweet disclosing the hack, the company shared the ransom note left by the hackers who claim to have accessed the source code of Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher 3, Gwent, and an intriguingly unreleased version of Witcher 3. The hackers are threatening to release the source code along with or sell the source code of it'll say that as well, alongside internal legal HR and financial documents if we will not come to an agreement, which I'm guessing would be some sort of financial agreement. In its statement, CD Projekt Red says it has secured its IT infrastructure and has begun restoring its data from its backups. It says it has informed the relevant authorities as well as its IT forensic specialists. Leaks have now started to happen, it appears. Earlier today, leaks of potential legitimate source code information started appearing on online forums, as noted on Twitter by cybersecurity account VX Underground. And this is what I had to say. The initial leak is believed to include source code of CD Projekt Red's virtual card game, Gwent, while VX Underground disclosed the auctions for the whole valuable source code were happening on a hacking forum known as Exploit. We haven't been able to verify that information, and CD Projekt Red has not responded to a request for comment. I mean, it's all going wrong for CD Projekt at this point. I mean, they've released Cyberpunk 2077, and that was a misstep for them. They've said some things that you could argue were misstep, and now they've been hacked, potentially by people unhappy about the whole Cyberpunk 2077 scenario, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think this is a worrying time, and I said to Tabs earlier on in the week when this news broke, I said it's worrying that they've got like HR documents, potentially emails. Are we going to see some very damaging things coming out? Are we going to see, and this is all conjecture, are we going to see, maybe emails suggesting that the game has to go out, whether it's broken or not? Are we going to see emails or information from HR saying, no, you've got to do this? I think this is a worrying time. And to be honest, it's so worrying that I can't fathom in my own mind why they wouldn't do something to quash this. I know that would mean they, more often than not, they would have to part with quite a bit of money, but if it saves their brand, which is sort of what we're looking at this point, then potentially that is worth that. So, worrying times. Tabs, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I feel really sorry for them. As much as, we've talked in previous weeks about them being deserved of consequences for the botched launch of Cyberpunk 2077, ad infinitum. At the same time, you kind of feel like they'd had enough. We didn't want to see the company sunk entirely by that. We didn't want to see all the talented developers who, have added so much to games gone by go down with that ship either. So it is a real shame to see. In terms of, as you say, their approach to this, they seem staunch and steadfast that they are going to weather this storm. They're not going to give in to the demands. And that is really surprising, because if they've got all this personal data, from what we've seen, the tip of the iceberg, I'm convinced there must be some damaging material there that could be potentially wielded against them in this class action lawsuit. Maybe there's some legal ramifications there we don't understand, which is why they're not afraid of it. But either way, it does seem a little bit strange that this kind of brazen approach that we've told everybody about it, we're just going to prepare for the worst. So we'll have to see again how this all plays out. Again, I just really hope it doesn't destroy CD Projekt Red entirely, because they have redeeming qualities, and it would be such a shame to see that. It was just incidentally, mate, the unreleased version of The Witcher 3, that did tickle my fancy. Do you think that could be a next-gen version? Or
I don't know, or an unreleased add-on. When I read that, I thought, that is interesting.
I'd love to be a next-gen uplift to it, but
I think it's one of those. As much as we want CD Projekt Red to be held accountable for releasing what is a broken game and people paying for it, I don't think I wanted, in terms of I want them to be, held to account for doing what they've done. Basically, I don't want them to be hacked and then potentially, see them disappear into obscurity, because that's not what we want. They make good games. It's just this was a misstep.
Yeah.
Due to time, maybe COVID related, whatever it was, this was a misstep, and we're all capable of missteps.
Yeah, it feels overly punitive to me, absolutely, and a little bit, callous. I don't know if that's the right word on behalf of these hackers. I get people are angry. I get people have been, damaged by what's happened, but at the same time, maybe leave them alone and let them recover and try and make good and make amends. Give them that faith, put that faith in them. But yeah, anyway, we'll have to see how this unfolds again. As ever, at least it gives us a rich vein of news to tap into, I'm sure, in the coming weeks, as we've covered CDPR and Cyberpunk no end.
Absolutely.
But Rich, do you want to take us on?
Absolutely, and we'll finish this week as we do all of the time with everything else, your like quick dash through all of the other news stories this week. So we're going to start with Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury, currently sitting on a eye-watering Metacritic score of 90, really impressive. So, and as we've already heard, Tabs has already gone out and bought it.
Yeah, despite IGN giving it a 7 out of 10, check that one out. It did seem a bit inconsistent to me, but I'll let you explore that on your own time. Next up, PS5 controller. So the DualSense, specifically in question, is facing a lawsuit because of controller drift. So presumably, Rich, that's in line with Nintendo's Joy-Con drift. Is it something similar?
I'm assuming so, yeah. I think we've heard about the drift. People after 10 days of owning the console have got drift on their controller. So worrying times. I'm hoping that if there is a problem with the design, they can sort it, and this sort of comes and goes relatively quickly. Nice one for you, Tabs. Disco Elysium, the final cut, adding 4 new side quests and full voice acting.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. I love this game. Absolutely adore it. It's coming out on consoles, of course, next gen, I think. And I'm hopefully going to get the free upgrade as part of it because I own it on the PC on Steam. Just the full voice acting is so exciting.
Yes.
I think that's such a great thing.
Because you said to me there's a lot of reading in it. Well, that's sort of gone now if that's full voice acting. So that's really good quality of life.
Yeah, hugely. I think it's going to just lower those barriers to entry because, yeah, if you're not keen on your reading, it can be a little bit impenetrable in that respect. So, yeah, go out and give it a try, gamers, if you're interested. Next up, Final Fantasy XIV is getting an upgraded PS5 version featuring 4K and super fast load times.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Prince of Persia, the Sands of Time remake gets another delay. Currently it's slated for March 2021. I think it was set for January this year, so that's pushed back again. I suspect there may be another delay on that one. And finally, I just wanted to finish with something that I had completely forgotten about. Now, the game that we raved about quite a bit last year, was it Black? What is it, Tabs? Come on, help me out here. Black Wong, is it?
Oh, Black Myth Wukong, is it?
This is it, yes. Now, a trailer dropped for that this week, and if you haven't seen it, you should go and check it out because this game is looking incredible. We already saw like a 13-minute gameplay trailer that looked amazing last year. Much the same this year on this sort of cinematic trailer, all about the Year of the Ox, and it looks incredible. I'm so excited for this game. The only bit like dampening my excitement for this game is the fact it's slated for 2023.
I know.
Ridiculous.
It's kind of crazy because the kind of the state it's in at the minute, it looks like visually not far from being finished, but maybe they've just got much greater scope in terms of the length of the game and, bringing that all together. And to be fair, mate, on recent times, I'm very happy for them to take as much time as they need because it looks like they've really got a diamond here if they can nail it. I mean, definitely Soulsborne vibes, you would say.
Yeah, 100%.
Somebody, I think, mentioned in a trailer I saw recently, Horizon Zero Dawn vibes. I mean, I'm not too sure about that. I mean, it doesn't seem to be open world, does it? It seems more linear to me, but who knows?
Yeah, it does seem a bit more like Demon Souls, that sort of like, and especially the way you seem to be taking on big bosses, but then mini like bosses leading up to them. Yeah, definitely seems like that. I'll tell you what, we'll drop a link in the description for that trailer, so definitely go and check that out if you haven't done already. And I think that brings us to the end on this week's Gaming News Weekly.
Still adjusting to that new title, clearly, mate. Shaking off the shackles of old.
Crazy. We'll get there. So if you have enjoyed this week's show, definitely give us a like. And if you're new here and you've enjoyed listening to us talk about games, we love to do it. So definitely subscribe and join us on the channel. And I think that's about it. Another one for the archive.
Stamped and completed.